Hey, what's up, guys? No cold open this week, and it still says mishcov.com for my name. Let me fix that. That, of course, was from last weekend when we were interviewing Megan from the Michigan Citizens Only Voting Initiative, which I actually had a great time in Saline this past week. I almost said weekend, but no, week, because we were there for a long time. In fact, here, I'll show you a picture. This was our booth at the Saline Fair. So you can see we had a big Michigan Citizen Only Voting banner in our backdrop. Yeah, can I make this bigger? I guess I can't. So there it is. Yeah, unfortunately, I was supposed to stream last night at our regularly scheduled time, which I have been bad about lately to begin with, but we were unable to get out of the Saline Fair before 8 o'clock yesterday. So I was just stranded without my computer and was unable to do a live stream. So we are doing some catch up tonight. So thank you guys all for joining us. I'll try to keep it to be a more Trump positive show tonight. I know people don't appreciate when I criticize Trump, despite the fact that he keeps doing these things that are so aggravating. But there is great news today, folks. I don't know if you saw the news from President Trump, but he has taken in trillions of dollars in with his tariffs. And so I guess our national debt crisis is solved, folks. I mean, there it is. Here, I'll show you on the screen here. This is why is this all scrolling funny? How can I make this smaller? This is Trump's tweet from a day or so ago. He's actually being critical of the U.S. Court of Appeals for rejecting the tariffs. It was now going to the U.S. Supreme Court. What'll happen there? Who knows? It says it was a 7-4 opinion in which all of the Democrat appointees voted to block the tariffs and the Republican appointees voted to uphold them. So if it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court, I guess we will expect the tariffs will be upheld. But obviously Trump is concerned. And so he writes, without tariffs and all of the trillions of dollars we have already taken in, our country would be completely destroyed and our military power would be instantly obliterated. That's weird, because we didn't have these tariffs like a year ago. So why would it cause that? But there he says in a 7-4 opinion, a radical left group of judges didn't care, but one Democrat Obama appointed actually voted to save our country. So I guess one of the 4 judges that didn't vote to uphold the tariffs was appointed by Obama. So there's that, but that's not the only time this week Trump has claimed that the tariffs have raised trillions of dollars. Here's a post from the White House today. President Trump's protectionist trade policies have helped drive more than $8 trillion in new U.S. investment, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. $8 trillion in new U.S. investment. That's a ton of money. And here it says $8 trillion in revenue, which is a different thing, but okay. Which just kind of makes you wonder, where's this money? Like, why don't we just cancel our national debt then? I mean, it sounds like all of our financial problems have been solved, which I don't know. It seems a little far-fetched to me. We've had these tariffs for what? Not even 6 months yet. Also, by the way, who pays for tariffs? Do the Indians pay for tariffs? Or is it the American importers that pay tariffs? So this $8 trillion here, it's claimed in revenue, which it probably isn't. Here it says in new U.S. investments. So apparently $8 trillion is coming our way in investments because of the tariffs that American importers are paying. I don't know. Seems a little strange to me, but I'll take it, folks. Our financial problems are over. We can triple the size of government. Our government can afford to buy whole companies like Intel, and it's a great deal. It's awesome. But meanwhile, in another wonderful thing Trump has done, he is bringing peace to the world. He has united the seemingly intractable nations of India and China. They got together. They're getting together as we speak in China, along with a lot of other countries. In fact, let me find. Sorry, I've got Gee, I just closed the tab I didn't mean to close. Looking for the different things we've got here. Here's the photo of, you see there's Putin and Xi Jinping in the center, and then that's Modi, the Prime Minister of India. They're and the heads of state of a lot of other countries. This is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is looking more and more like BRICS every day. It's basically the group of everybody who's not in the West, and lots of activities and actions going on with that. So just not even a year ago, India and China were hating each other, and they're having a border dispute. And now there is this. Here is, and I'm not going to make you listen to it, but here's what Chinese President Xi Jinping says to Modi. We are two ancient civilizations, two giants of the global south. The dragon and the elephant must walk together as partners and friends. 2.8 billion people on the same side. Unstoppable power, says the Chinese. Is it really the prime minister? Is the premier? I forget what exactly his title is called, but you know who I'm talking about, Xi Jinping. And yeah, they are now apparently, and of course, along with Putin as well, best of friends. And you have to wonder how this is all good for America, I guess. But this, of course, was all set off by Trump putting these tariffs on India for the crime of selling Russia oil, which is especially weird because we actually, well, in the Biden regime, they actually encouraged India to buy Russian oil because they didn't want there to be too much price instability in the oil market. But here is the genius at the White House, Peter Navarro, who's been talking about this for this past week. Actually, this might be a different clip of him. This is, I think, him talking about the court decision on the tariffs. But let's hear Peter.
So it was a bad decision, but the good news is the dissent was very, very strong. I think it provides a very clear roadmap to how the Supreme Court can certainly rule in our favor. It dealt with three major issues and some minor ones. I got a piece coming out in the Washington Times you can get the details on. But the questions are like, is there a national emergency? Of course, people are dying of fentanyl, and the trade deficit is like absolutely devastating to this country. The tariffs, this is like a semantic issue. Are tariffs qualifying as the regulation of imports? Of course they are. There's plenty of law on that. One of the red herrings they threw out for the majority was that somehow, because they argued the tariffs were permanent, hey, memo to the court, we never said they were permanent. You can't find Lutnick, Besant, Greer, myself, or the president saying that. If China and the drug cartels from Mexico and Canada stop killing Americans tomorrow, tariffs go away. Ditto if the trade deficit went to zero. So the bottom line, Jackie, a very good dissent, provides a roadmap for the Supreme Court. We feel very optimistic. If we lose the case, President Trump is right. It will be the end of the United States.
The end of the United States, ladies and gentlemen, for the policy that was just now put in place less than 6 months ago would be the end of America. That apparently is the argument, I guess, they're going to take to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, the thing is, here's the thing. So the law actually does give the president authority to impose tariffs in the event of an economic emergency, which, you know, kind of makes sense. The issue is that Trump has also been posting all over the place that he's not imposing a lot of these tariffs because of an economic emergency. He, for example, came right out and said, we're going to impose these tariffs on Brazil because of what they're doing to Bolsonaro. And he came right out and said, we're going to impose these tariffs on India because they're buying Russian oil. So very, very unmistakable, clear as can be, the president saying that we're using these tariffs as a tool of foreign policy, not economic policy. So we'll see what the Supreme Court does. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. In the meantime, the tariffs are in place. and for all the good that will do us. Trillions and trillions of dollars in revenue. Hopefully, it will clear up the national debt by then. I am still trying to find this other clip from Peter Navarro, though, because the way he goes after the prime minister or the president of India, Modi, is just, it's so bizarre. It's almost like he is awestruck that India has not only not buckled in the face of the tariffs, but is now very, very proudly meeting with Russia and India and saying, yeah, we are going to we're going to stand up to this stuff. So let me see if I can find this clip. But I'll tell you what it reminded me of. It reminded me of Joe Biden. And when Joe Biden would always say, come on, man, because the way he talks to Prime Minister Modi, he says, what are you doing, Modi? What are you doing? You're going along with the Russians here? They're not your friends. We're your friends. They're not your friends. Come on, man. He doesn't actually literally say, come on, man, but it sounded to my ears just like the way that that Biden would talk of whatever Biden was blabbering about. Needs to come on, man. Okay, I'm not finding the clip, but so be it. All right. Well, anyway, D says the Golden Dome over America, continuous satellite monitoring of all of us. Hey, yeah, we have all the money in the world. Why not? But Trump has been doing some, okay, and this time I'm actually being sincere, has been some great news coming out of the Trump administration from the department we said had the right guy in charge, and that is RFK Jr., who is taking out the trash at the CDC. And here is a clip of some of these people so proud of themselves. You see them here. Proud to be resigning. See that guy here. One of them resigned during the pandemic over the government's policy in the middle of the pandemic. But this guy here, he has actually posted a very lengthy screed on X. Let me see if I can find thought I have it here someplace. I've got too many windows open at this point. I might have closed it by mistake. Anyway, he's just blathering on about how he's afraid of the politicization of the department and RFK Jr. is so bad and blah, blah, blah. And of course, there have been hit piece after hit piece in the mainstream media going after RFK Jr. Here is who this guy actually is, by the way. This is that very same CDC director who is into apparently BDSM. And here's another photo of him in a satanic, some sort of gimp costume thing. We see there's a pentagram in the middle of it. So the actual, yes, Patty says another embarrassing Greek. Yeah. Yeah. So apparently the CDC is every bit as sadistic and satanic as we always knew they were after the lockdowns. But of course, the real story here is that they're now, RFK Jr. is and several people have pointed this out. RFK Jr. is now investigating the, what's it called? The ACIP, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Policy. And even Trump is actually starting to, who would have thunk? Trump himself is actually apparently having some second thoughts about the vaccines. I have never seen Trump say anything but how brilliant and wonderful the vaccines were until this post just a day or so ago. It is very important that the drug companies justify the success of their various COVID drugs. Many people think they are a miracle that saved millions of lives. Trump has said that many times. Others disagree. With CDC being ripped apart over this question, I want the answer and I want it now. I've been shown information from Pfizer and others that is extraordinary, but they never seem to show those results to the public. Why not? They go off to the next hunt and let everyone rip themselves apart, including Bobby Kennedy Jr. and the CDC, to try to figure out the success or failure of the drug company's COVID work. They show me great numbers and results, but they don't seem to be showing them to many others. Want them to show them now to the CDC and the public to clear up this mess one way or the other. I hope Operation Warp Speed was as brilliant, quote unquote, brilliant as many say it was. If not, We all want to know about it and why. Thank you for your attention. It's a very important matter. President DJT. D on YouTube says no shots are safe, Bobby, period. Well, theoretically, some could be. I don't know. I'm not a disease expert. I do know that they take a lot of testing and time before you just, force them onto the entire, global population. But that apparently didn't happen. Yeah, Patty says, gee, maybe perhaps they showed Trump some fudge numbers. Oh, you think? Meanwhile, on X, Senator Rand Paul has now gotten into it with one of his own colleagues. So here is the satanic, sadistic lunatic who has recently quit the CDC just before being fired, and he's going on about how dare the government change the hepatitis B vaccine recommendation for newborns. And Senator Paul, who is himself a doctor, says no medical reason to give newborns the Hep B vaccine if the mother is not infected. All mothers who deliver in a hospital are tested. This scientist's fetish for vaccines, nice one, Rand, nice one, is not supported by the data, to which one of his vaccine company whore colleagues, who is also a doctor, Bill Cassidy, and a Republican, no less, comes out and says, empirically, this is not true. Not all mothers have prenatal care. Apparently, he didn't read what Rand wrote carefully. All mothers who deliver in a hospital are tested. Cassidy says, not all mothers have prenatal care. Some get infected between testing in the first trimester and delivery. In some cases, the test is overlooked. If a child is infected at birth, they have a 95% chance of being chronically infected unless they get a dose of the hepatitis B vaccine at birth. If they do, less than 5% chance of being chronically infected, to which Rand Paul shot back. The standard of care is to test mothers for Hep B at time of delivery. So anyone arguing for universal Hep B vaccine at birth is simply shilling for Big Pharma. We'll allow them the typo there in the spelling of the word shilling. Then there's, of course, a link to the HHS website. And there you go. So Senator Rand Paul, one of the only senators who's not a complete and total puppet of the big pharmaceutical lobby, but lots of others on like all over the news, really. In fact, I can pull this up pretty quickly. Big story in the news media attacking Bobby Kennedy Jr. Where was that story? Here we go. From some CDC bureaucrat. We ran the CDC. Kennedy is endangering every American's health. And there's a nice comment from this guy here about how dare anybody, the CDC, label anybody over anything. These are the people that, of course, propagated all kinds of lunacy in the COVID era that we all want to forget about. So that is one very positive development going on in the Trump administration, and hopefully, it's been a while. We haven't heard anything yet it's been a while since we heard from Tulsi Gabbard, but I want more Russiagate investigation stories, folks. When are we going to hear more about that? It really puzzles me that Trump has, to this point, still done like basically nothing to change the prevailing narrative about Russia. Like, most Americans believe Putin is Hitler and yada, 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 and Trump is not doing anything to change that impression at all, including this whole policy of we're sanctioning India for buying oil from Russia, which is just so bizarre. The damage it's done to our relations with India is, it's hard to understate. But again, why? What's the point? Aren't we supposed to be the neutral party that's brokering peace between Russia and Ukraine? No, of course we're not. We're 100% on the side of Ukraine. We're still arming them to this day. We're still providing them with ISR intelligence and reconnaissance. That's what we are doing. And it's weird. Trump he keeps saying, "Oh, we're not giving them weapons anymore. We're selling them weapons. We're selling them weapons, selling weapons to NATO. In fact, Who is paid for by whom exactly? Oh, that's right, the U.S. taxpayers. So, anyway, the other big story this week is, at last, Gretchen Whitmer has finally called a special election. I wonder if it had anything to do with that lawsuit ordering that was going to compel her to call the special election. But she popped into the United States for a weekend to issue this news release, and then, of course, flew back out to vacation in Japan and Singapore. That's a vacation. I meant take a diplomatic visit to those countries to bring jobs from Singapore to Michigan. Yeah, that's where the jobs are going to come from. They're going to come back to Michigan from Singapore. She's not just vacationing in Singapore. No. Anyway, she has finally called the special election to fill the congressional seat, which was vacated at the end of last year. And the special election will be held on May 5th of next year. So they will be without a state senator. This is the 35th district, the Midland-Bay Saginaw area, 250,000 people, without a state Senate representative, a state senator, for nearly a year and a half. Nearly a year and a half. She could have called this election 8 months ago. Unfreaking believable. Utterly shameless. I was trying to actually get the attorneys from the lawsuit that they filed against Gretchen Whitmer to force her to call a special election to come on the show, but I guess that's now mooted because the election has now at last been called. Maybe it wasn't going to look good. I don't know. In other news this week, JD Vance has come out on the Epstein. So here is JD Vance. We can listen to him for a moment.
Jeffrey Epstein. Now that you're in power, you say that there is no client list. Why do you think it is that so many of your own supporters don't believe you?
Well, I think what the president has said, first of all, is he's told the Department of Justice to do full transparency here, to release what we have, to release the credible information. And I think you saw Todd Blanche just a couple of days ago actually release the 9-hour transcript of interview that he did with Ghislaine Maxwell. What the president has also said is that we've got a whole host of things that we can focus on. You can both order the Department of Justice to do full transparency. You can also ask the Department of Justice to enforce the law. You can also ask the National Guard to make sure that DC's streets are safe. You don't have to do one of these things or the other. So I don't think that it's a distraction, especially when I think the president has ordered the administration to be more transparent about this than any other issue. Now, yes, I'm certainly aware that there are folks, even some of our own supporters, who have criticized the response of the president of the Department of Justice. But I think if you look at this in full and you give this the proper amount of time, what you're going to find is that the administration has been far more open and transparent about this issue and many others than any other administration. We have to remember this entire thing happened. This entire story blew up during the Biden administration. The Biden administration had 4 years to release this information. They did absolutely nothing.
You know, now that you mention it, JD, what do you mean this story blew up during the Biden administration? When did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself again? Oh, that's right. That was August 2019. Yeah. Why wasn't the first Trump administration the least bit transparent about anything? Also, this administration's not been transparent. They released a doctored video and called it original and unedited. It then turned out it had been edited and 3 minutes of the video were deleted. And I'm sorry, folks, I don't have the side-by-side clip of JD Vance when he was on Theo Vaughn's show saying, yeah, we need to release that list. We need to release that list for sure.
The president has actually directed his Department of Justice to release whatever information that we can, and also to go further. I mean, to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell for 9 hours to see if there are any other leads that we can uncover to actually identify some crimes that we can prosecute. But again, as the president has always said, we're going to let the Department of Justice be driven by the facts and the law. We're not going to prosecute people just because other people want us to. We're only going to prosecute people if they committed a crime. That's true in the Epstein situation. And that's true in a lot of other issues as well.
Yeah, see, the problem here is we don't trust Pam Bondi not to go where the facts lead. That's why you have to release the facts. That's kind of the big thing. Chris says when Gretchen Whitmer called the District 25 special election in 2023, it was Thanksgiving week. The special election was called for April of the next year. Why the big spread? And of course, the reason is because those seats were assumed to be safe Democrat seats, whereas this Senate district might flip to the Republicans. And that of course is the big concern, is that if Republicans win that race, they will have the majority. Will they have the majority in the Senate? No, wait, hold on. Let me think about this. It was 20 to 18. It's 19 to 18. No, it'd be 19-19, and Garland-Gilchrist would be the tiebreaker. So they would not have the Republicans would not have the majority. It'd be a tie, but even still, damaging with the budget negotiations and everything else. And also because at that point you don't have a majority leader. You have a Republican and a Democrat leader, and that's it. And it's not a quad anymore, as they like to call it, a quad, which means when the governor meets with the budget talks with the House and Senate, they have the two parties leaders. Actually, I guess it still would be a quad, because it'd be the House leader, the House Speaker, the minority leader, and the Democrat, and then the Senate Democrat Republican leaders is what they would have. But even still, they don't want to lose a seat, period. And that's what the whole issue has been. And it's bizarre. But anyway, getting back to this Epstein stuff. It's coming to a head because Thomas Massey and the Democrats have, and I think several people are on board now with the Epstein List Transparency Act. Let me pull it up. We have a decent number of Republican co-sponsors, in fact, including, I believe, our own Senator Tom Barrett. Yeah, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Here we go. And it has probably one with more co-sponsors. Massey's a co-sponsor. No, there's another one that has more co-sponsors. This is not the same one. Let's see if I can find it here. Well, I'm not going to dig around through it, but I did see somewhere there was one that had several Republicans on it, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I believe also actually Representative Tom Barrett. So I'll get back to you guys on that one. But more importantly, there is a discharge petition in the House. And if a majority of members of the House sign it, then they can force a vote on the bill. And this is actually why House Speaker Mike Johnson adjourned the House early. Remember, before the summer break, he adjourned early, because if they didn't, the discharge petition would have, they call it ripened. There's a certain amount of time that has to go by. And to prevent there from being a vote on the Epstein files before the summer vacation, they adjourned the House early. All the stuff the House and Senate have to do, never mind that. And there is a lot they're going to be doing starting this week. There is a budget deal being worked on. My prediction, it won't happen. I bet we're going to get to the end of September, and they're going to end up having to punt. It'll be a continuing resolution, and the Joe Biden era budget will be extended again. That's what I'm predicting will happen. And there's also the National Defense Authorization Act coming up. Lots of interesting amendments in that one, including one amendment, by the way, pushed by, I want to say, Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, that would require the United States increase its military spending to 5% of our GDP by 2035, which, to put this in perspective, we spend about 2.5% of our GDP now in the military. So literally doubling our military expenditures. That's an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act. But there's some actual good ones. There's one, I think, to throw in the warrant requirement for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act that they've been using to spy on Americans. There's an amendment to make that to do that reform. So that's something I think that's actually that's being co-sponsored by who was it? There's a Democrat and a Republican. It escapes me right now. But anyway, all these things are happening. There's going to be this mad rush in Congress, but because because they adjourned the House early to avoid a vote on the Epstein files. That will be happening when they come back this week. So we'll see what happens. But it's amazing to hear that on one hand, the Republicans, the leadership, Mike Johnson, saying we're doing everything we can for Epstein files transparency, but then why do they want to block this bill? Those two things are incompatible, and they're tossing out all of these bogus excuses, saying things like, "Oh, we can't disclose the names of the victims." No one's saying you have to. That's not the provision. When they say we release the whole files, that doesn't mean you can't redact anything. It just means you can't hide whole documents. And there's been some interesting Epstein disclosures on the internet this week. Oh yeah, that's right. There was some emails leaked. It was posted by not WikiLeaks, but this other outfit, what they call Distributed Denial of Secrets, I think they were called, and some back and forth between Jeffrey Epstein and the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, talking about how wonderful it would be for them to get together and meet with Peter Thiel, the founder of Palantir, the company spying on everybody, and also a big supporter of JD Vance, incidentally. So there you go. We'll see how this all shapes up. We'll see how this amendment goes. And of course, the other thing that Mike Johnson keeps saying is, why didn't Thomas Massie speak out about this when Joe Biden was in the White House? And the answer, of course, being because they knew they didn't have the votes to get anything done with Joe Biden in the White House. The only reason the Democrats are on board now is because they see this being bad politically for Republicans. We know, obviously, the Democrats don't actually care about Jeffrey Epstein, but they're going along with it now because it's politically good for them. And fine, if there's going to be a vote, we want disclosure, we want transparency, we don't want this thing to be covered up. So let them take the vote, and we'll see what happens. But they may well have the votes. If they get all the Democrats plus a dozen Republicans, then they'll have the votes to pass this. So we'll see what happens. What else was I going to talk about? Oh, the other big story. Another good thing Trump has been doing this past week is threatening to go after crime all over the country, and in particular going after it in Chicago. Now, there might be some constitutional problems. He has to be, I guess, invited. But the great thing is, the result of this is all the Democrats are now going on record saying we don't want Trump to stop crime in our cities. It's been so pathetic. The mayor of Chicago comes out, how dare Trump try to stop the murders in Chicago? And of course, Trump is talking on Truth Social. There's 20 murders in Chicago this week. You guys don't seem to care about that very much. So in that one sense, and there's been a couple of senses, Trump's been doing some good stuff. And that is one of them. For all of the frustration that we have with Trump and his trade policies and his foreign policies, no one really wants to see the Democrats come back. And fortunately, they're digging their own political grave as we speak. And that's always a good thing to see. But speaking of foreign policy, it looks like there's still movement going towards war with Venezuela. So here is actually a map of all of the military assets that have been deployed into the area. And actually, just today, I saw someone on the internet claiming that there's been sudden power failures in Venezuela, like as if from some sabotage, but who knows? But yeah, so lots of Tomahawk missiles could be sent Venezuela's way. And also there's like 4,000 Marines and sailors in the area. And for their part, Venezuela has mobilized. They have formed a militia. So they are preparing for a war from the United States. So who knows how that'll go? I certainly don't know. I don't know what Venezuela's military readiness capabilities are. But one thing that I must say I've been shocked about was to see this guy, Alex Jones, coming out in favor of war with Venezuela. So let's listen to Alex Jones from and explaining why Alex Jones is suddenly supporting of America's military interventions into foreign.
Now, I don't like any of these wars, not Gulf War, not Gulf II, not Afghanistan, all of it. I've been against all these wars, Ukraine war, all of it.
But here's the but.
But if you look at U.S. doctrine and wars that we fought before that were right, it's in Latin America. This is our sandbox.
What does that even mean?
And Venezuela is a communist dictatorship with the biggest oil reserves per square foot in the world. Their people are absolute slaves.
So, okay, first off, I like it comes right out and just says, with the world's largest oil reserves. Like, yeah, no kidding. Yeah, we know exactly what this is all about, Alex. And he should know too, of all people. Well, what does that even mean? Look at all the good wars we fought. They're all in Latin America. Oh, see what it is. The rule is you don't want to have any kind of foreign military interventions if they're in Europe, but if they're in South America, have at it, man. That apparently is Alex Jones's standard. Barry says, I don't know what to make of Alex Jones. I don't know. I don't know what to make of Alex Jones either. Other than this is the last thing I'd have ever expected from him. And he goes on, he's like, oh, they're a communist dictatorship. The people are all slaves. Yeah, right. I mean, where does he even get that from? He just tosses that like it's just some self-evident absolute
Slaves. And I don't like regime change, but they are manipulating our elections. They are flooding us with fentanyl.
Evidence needed. What is the evidence of any of this? There's an organized crime. This is what Marco Rubio is saying to justify deporting the Trindagua people. Okay, fine. I'm not opposed to that. It doesn't mean I'm supporting invading Venezuela. D says, I'm glad you're optimistic about Trump. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything good. Who listens to Alex Jones anymore? I don't listen to Alex Jones anymore, but I did see this pop up on X. And people do. I mean, he is influential. And I don't know. I mean, Trump is always a mixed bag. I think this idea of starting a war with Venezuela is pathetic. It's because he's had no luck whatsoever with any of his other wars, I think. And who knows? We very well might see the restart of hostilities between Israel and Iran before the end of this year. And we absolutely are not seeing anything slow down in Ukraine other than the demise of the Ukrainian military. So that's going to happen for at least another several more months. So yeah, we shall see what happens when Trump's tariffs make it to the U.S. Supreme Court. We'll see if he gets his way there. Hopefully the U.S. Supreme Court upholds the tariffs so that we can pay off our national debt with all that free money we get from tariffs out of nowhere. Obviously, I'm being facetious. I don't know where Trump gets these ridiculous numbers from, but whatever. Hoping for the best, that's for sure. And in the meantime, guys, I don't have too much else to say. This whole week, I was just absolutely killed by that dang this Celine Fair. We set up on Tuesday and broke down like last night. That was a 6-day event, so it really just sapped me. But we will have more to discuss next week, and also I may actually be going down to Indiana to adopt a puppy in the next couple of days, so we'll see. But yeah, it's been another week. So until the next time, guys, thanks as always for all you do for liberty. Get those petitions in. Go to mishcov.com. Get your petitions. Get them signed. I haven't even counted up how many we've got. We got a lot of sheets done at the Celine Fair, so we're looking forward to turning those in. All right, guys, until next time, thanks for all you guys do for liberty, and until then, peace.